Thank you. And that's it. Ball turret gunner. Usually no more than that. Oh, what a... Don't challenge this thing up close, dudes. Thank you. Thank you. 3-piece. Where's the quad at? No, it's a split feed. Alright, what up everybody? Tim here, and of course, welcome back to the channel. In fact, welcome to a brand new World War II video. So, in this one, we're actually going to take a look at the top 5 best weapons in the game. Now, these are, of course, picked by me, yours truly, so on that note, I'm going to casually assume that some of you prefer different weapons, so by all means, share your thoughts down below in the comments. And on that note, putting this list together was actually slightly more difficult than I thought it would be. See, me personally, when it comes to the top 3, that's easy peasy, right? Number 4 is doable. Number 5 is a bit more tricky. I was contemplating the Kar 98, I was contemplating the Thompson, even so much the MP40. There are a ton of very well balanced guns in this game. At the end of the day though, I personally feel like that the assault rifles are the more dominant weapons in the game, or at least on most maps. So on that note, this list is filled with assault rifles, and if I'm not mistaken, one SMG as well. And on that note, at the number 5 spot, we have the FG42. Now, this right here is actually your solid 3-shot kill assault rifle. Most of the weapons in this game, say in comparison to Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, even so much Advanced Warfare, actually have a lower base damage. So, oftentimes you need 4 bullets to kill, oftentimes you need 5 bullets to kill, especially with a ton of the SMGs. If I'm not mistaken, at long range, the PPSH is actually a 6-shot kill, which is absolutely crazy. This bad boy right here, though, is a very consistent 3-shot kill at close to medium range. And at very extremely long ranges, it'll be a 4-shot kill. Now, this alone, of course, makes one of the most consistent weapons in the game. Of course, it's got some drawbacks. For starters, though, the iron sights are absolutely flawless. That's most definitely a plus. The medium recoil is very easy to handle, especially at close to medium range. At long range, though, you want to tap the trigger for sure. Then again, I personally try to avoid long range encounters to the best of my abilities. Snipers in this game are quite difficult to deal with. Like, they're pretty easy to use, let's put it that way, so I tend to avoid those situations. And then, in terms of the drawbacks, right? For starters, this thing only has 20 bullets in a standard magazine. That actually gets bumped up to 30 with the extended mags, which is most definitely a must-have. The fire rate is somewhat low, so rapid fire 2 is a very great option. And apart from that, I think that pretty much any setup will work just fine. Just give it a go. If you use it for the first time, though, remember, stick to those close to medium range engagements. Medium range is most definitely preferred. Anyway, on that note, at the number 4 spot, we have my favorite weapon in the game, the underdog of assault rifles, as I like to call it, the M1941. Now, in this case, I'm going to casually assume that most people overlook this weapon purely because it is actually the first assault rifle you unlock within the multiplayer. In fact, this bad boy right here is given to you as soon as you unlock the infantry division. But of course, that doesn't mean that this one right here is actually subpar, somewhat bad. In fact, it's quite the opposite, if I say so myself. For starters, of course, as far as assault rifles go, this right here is the one with the highest fire rates, making it very competitive at close to medium range. Even so much when it comes down to outgunning, so the BAR, the FG42, up close and personal, you shouldn't have too much of an issue. The only time you're really going to struggle is when you're up against, say, a Waffe 28, maybe a PPSH. Then again, at close range, those two are on a very different level. Apart from that, the recoil pattern might be the only one that's a bit of a drawback. Just because it's not too high, don't worry about that. It, however, seems a bit random. Like, I can't quite pinpoint where it moves up, down, to the left, to the right. If I'm not mistaken, it's just a little bit of everything, making it a bit meh at those long-range engagements. In fact, you want to avoid those at all costs, like always. But of course, that's not too much of an issue, just because this gun is clearly meant for close to medium range. The iron sights are flawless as well, don't need to worry about that. By default, this thing's got 25 bullets in a magazine, 37 with the extended magazine, which I tend to run myself quite a bit. I usually rock steady aim and extended mags just because in that case, you get the spray and pray up close and personal, can be very useful. And then usually added the grip to make this gun a bit more viable and mid-range. And then sometimes I'll rock out with the prime basic training as well and then slap a red dot sight on there too, making it even better at medium range engagements. Anyway, next up, at the number 4 spot, we have the only SMG that's on this list. Now, this one, to be fair, was a bit of a struggle to pick as well, because there are actually 3 SMGs in this game that I really like. For starters, the MP40, next up, the M1928, aka the Thompson, and then, of course, also the PPSH. Now, the MP40 seems to struggle a little bit at those medium to long range engagements, so that of course leaves you with the Thompson and the PPSH. And then at the end of the day, in this case, I picked the PPSH 41. Just seems a bit more powerful to me, a bit more consistent. Not too sure if all of you feel the same way about this weapon now. But of course, at the end of the day, both these two will work just fine. Now, the main reason I actually picked this one is because this right here is one of the very few weapons in the game that you can actually use the running gun with and still do somewhat well. I think we can all agree that this game right here is a lot more passive, a lot more slow-paced than the last 3 Call of Duty titles. I think that's more than safe to say. A lot of people tend to camp in their spawns, a lot of people tend to just sit and wait behind little head glitches, and this gun right here can simply rush through them, take them out nice and swiftly. The fire rate and the damage are actually high enough to compete with most of the SMGs and most of the assault rifles at close range. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, this bad boy right here is actually a 4-shot kill up close and personal, 5 for the distance, and I think the only gun you're ever going to get slapped by would be the WW2. Only up close and personal though. At mid-range, that gun doesn't stand a slight chance against the PPSH, because for an SMG, this thing is actually fairly accurate. Works wonders even at medium range. At long range though, it'll actually drop down to a 6-shot kill. In that case, you're gonna want to get the hell out of that situation, because there's no chance you're gonna win that. Just saying. Anyway, when it comes down to it, I'm not a huge fan of the iron sight, so I tend to rock a red dot sight. The grip is somewhat necessary as well, especially at mid-range. And then apart from that, maybe the extended magazine, maybe steady aim, something like that should do just fine. Anyway, on that note, at the number 2 spot, we have what is arguably the most consistent weapon in this game, and that's of course the STG-44. Now, normally speaking, in every Call of Duty title, there's one weapon that is essentially good at everything, but doesn't excel at anything. And to me, that's the STG-44 right here. The damage is alright, the recoil is alright, the reload speed's alright, everything's just kind of alright. Compare this to, say, maybe the MTAR from Black Ops 2, or the M4A1 from MW2 or MW3, the NV4 from Infinite Warfare, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, calling it average and everything might not make it sound too great, but that essentially means that regardless of your playstyle, regardless of the map that you play on, except for maybe Point 2 Hawk, that one's reserved for the SMGs, but on everything else, you should be able to do somewhat alright with this weapon. In fact, you should be able to do pretty damn good with this weapon. Now, of course, during the beta, this thing was hella OP. It's got a bit more recoil now, if I'm not mistaken. A bit of horizontal recoil, so all you have to do is aim down a little bit, and you've got yourself another laser beam. Anyway, on that note, I don't know about you, I prefer to rock this gun with the lens sight. The lens sight is actually a brand new sight in this game, right? It only seems to work for me on the STG-44. Not too sure what that's about. Then next up, also steady aim, just like with the M1941, and of course also extended mags. The fire rate's pretty good for an assault rifle, so up close and personal, spraying and praying works like a charm. Anyway, on that note, finally at the number 1 spot, and I'm fairly sure that all of you know exactly what weapon we're going to talk about. This right here is actually the most talked about gun in the game, and that's of course the BAR, or what I like to call it, the Scar H from World War II. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking, and yes, this gun actually got nerfed a couple of days ago. If I'm not mistaken, 2 days or so ago. I have the patch notes right in front of me, and apparently the BAR had its fire rate decreased, aka just slap rapid fire on there. And on top of that, the hipfire spread was also widened. Now, like I said before, I tend to compare this gun to the Scar H from Black Ops 2, aka even though it's an assault rifle, it actually has some LMG features, including a better wall penetration damage, and of course also a wider hipfire spread. So by default, I never used to spray and pray with this weapon. Honest to God, rarely worked out for me, so that doesn't affect me too much. And in the grand scheme of things, unless they increase the recoil whilst aiming down the sights, or actually decrease the fire rate to make it on par with the FG-42, there's no chance in hell they're ever going to stop this gun. It is simply way too good. Now, when I first started using this gun, I actually used to just slap the red dot sight on there, which would essentially make it a hell of a lot better at medium to long range. Nowadays though, I actually rock out the iron sights. It seems to work best at medium range. It's alright up close, it's alright at long range, but it definitely shines at medium range. So nowadays, I tend to use quick draw for starters. Next up, grip, which essentially gets rid of that little bit of recoil it actually does have. After that, rapid fire, making the fire rate on par with what it used to be. And then finally, we've got extended mags. The one downside of this weapon is that just like the FG-42, a standard magazine only has 20 bullets in it, which is not nearly enough, especially if this weapon is fire rate. And then with the extended mags, that gets bumped up to 30, again, just like the FG-42, which is just about alright. I would like 45, just saying that would be a very nice variant in the future. but for now, this will do just fine. Anyway, that right there wraps up today's video. Let me know down below what you thought of this list. I know there's a lot of assault rifles on it at the moment, but as of right now, the assault rifles are def dominant on most maps. Anyway, of course, as always, if you enjoyed the video, tap that like button for me in the face like a boss. Full on Jacksepticeye style. I still don't have an outro. Don't mind me. Of course, if you want to, you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and those links, as per usual, are down below in the description. If there are any other videos you'd like to see from me, then by all means, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your support. And of course, I will see some of you again tomorrow for a brand new video. Take it easy.
Recon aircraft in your area. Recon airborne searching for targets.